Hello and welcome to the Pages Pixels podcast, where we talk about new movies every week. I'm Rohan,
I'm Kirtana.
and today we're talking about Black Bag, the newest spy thriller from Steven Soderbergh, which basically it's just about Michael Fassbender's character. I believe his name is George, and he gets word that there has been a leak of a a bioweapon, and one of the suspects is his wife. So he has to investigate his wife as well as the rest of the characters and to figure out to figure out is his wife actually innocent, and if she is, who is the person who stole it.
What did you think of it?
Um, I actually want to talk about the marketing because I went into this movie expecting one thing, which is an action spy thriller. I mean, I can't tell you how many times the trailer showed that one car explosion, and
Mhm.
then just a bunch of shots of guns, which both are in the movie,
Mhm.
um, but there is absolutely no action. The trailer made it seem like it was going to be a super crazy, intense action
Mhm.
movie, and instead we kind of got a thriller, mystery, even a bit of a romance movie.
The trailer was extremely misleading, and I don't know. I don't think I have a problem with that because I think the movie ended up being a lot more interesting than what I expected when I walked in after
Yeah.
watching the trailer.
Hmm.
I thought some of the dialogue was really well written. I really quite enjoyed this little world and their just language that had been created like from this film. It was really cool.
Yeah. I don't know how much of it is based off research. Like, are there
Uh-huh.
the actual government organizations like this? Which I will say, this feels way more. If it is based off research, it feels more accurate to what an intelligence agency would do as compared to something like James Bond. So I don't know if it's just research or if it's just really great world building.
Uh-huh.
Like for example, even the name of the movie, Black Bag, I had never heard of that. Maybe that is a real
Uh-huh.
term that's being used, where you
Uh-huh.
can't talk about something. It's Black Bag. Oh,
Um, it's very cool that you brought up world building because I thought it was really well done in this film. I felt very immersed. We don't really like, it's not like they don't spend like the first like 20 minutes explaining to you what this world is. Like they don't like walk you
oh
around the
yeah,
headquarters and show you as you see normally in perhaps a film like this.
yeah.
And I thought the exposition was done very cleverly throughout.
Hmm.
It never felt like information was being thrown at you just for the sake of it.
Right.
It was very intelligently written, I would say.
Yeah, I think and this is actually something that I'm going to compare to another spy thriller, Christopher, which is Mission Impossible, and the writer and director of the past three of them, Christopher McQuarrie, has said, uh, when you want to do exposition, the best way to do it is also have some kind of drama involved.
Mhm.
And I think that this movie does that. So a perfect example is when Michael Fassbender, George, he's talking to I can't remember the name of the character of Roger Jean Page, the magician guy. Um,
Mhm.
when he's talking to him,
Yep.
and Jean Page that mentions Switzerland,
Mhm.
that there is the dealer for the bioweapon is in Switzerland.
Mhm.
And that is a piece of exposition. But it
Mhm.
becomes drama because George knows that his wife is
Mhm.
flying to Switzerland. And
Mhm.
it creates tension because he is starting to wonder, is his wife the bad guy here or the villain here?
Right.
And
Right.
does he have to come into a situation where he has to either kill her or hand her over to the government, who will probably kill
Mhm.
her?
Mhm. I thought it was very smart to have the love story angle to it. Like I know we were talking about this earlier, where this is yes, it's like a spy thriller, whatever, but at its core, it's still a love story.
Yep.
Um, and I thought that was a really cool way to add like a layer and some stakes to it. Um, I will say that I was not sold on the love story. Uh, I just, I don't know, like they tell us that these two people are really in love and will do anything for their marriage. I don't know, just something about it didn't like hit. I'm guessing the way they wanted it to hit. But you know, at face value,
Mhm.
what's up?
Do you think that it's because of the coldness of the movie?
I think a little bit. I also think that it was also a lot. I think it was honestly, I just didn't think that Michael Fassbender and Kate Blanchett had like chemistry, if I'm being completely honest. It felt a little
Really?
like Yeah, I thought their performances individually were really cool. Especially Kate Blanchett, I thought was like she was incredible. But I just
Mhm,
didn't buy that they were into each other. And I think it might possibly be because of just like what you said, just the general coldness in terms of the tone of the film,
mhm,
but also just the way they talk to each other. Like in general, I like the dialogue, but it just didn't feel like a husband and wife talking to each other. It like they were almost like speaking in riddles, I think.
yeah.
Which that was if I had to pick like an issue with the film, that was probably it.
Mhm,
Because once I realized that that wasn't working for me, it kind of took me out of perhaps what the filmmakers were intending.
mhm,
Yeah, the other thing I noticed was I thought that the pacing was a little slow. It felt intentional. I don't think it was like, oh, like the screenplay was slow and people didn't realize it. I think it was very intentionally paced the way it was. For me, it
mhm.
just felt a little slow. But otherwise, I really quite enjoyed the film.
Yeah. Those two things didn't really come for me. I get that. I understand where you're coming from the pacing. Because there's a
Mhm,
lot of scenes where it is like, I mean, I go back to if you go back to the opening scene, it is a very, very long shot of Michael Fassbender, um,
mhm,
walking. And even
mhm,
though there is stuff happening typically, and this is just the thing, if you watch, especially network TV,
mhm,
versus something that is like on an FX or even an HBO. Typically, network TV has a lot of edits and
mhm,
cuts, and that it
mhm,
kind of gives the illusion of faster pacing than there actually is.
mhm,
While something, especially, and I bring up FX because I know a show like Fargo, there's
mhm,
a ton of scenes where there's just long shots. When there's not like a when there's not a cut,
mhm. Yeah,
it
it
makes
does
it
feel
feel
longer.
slower.
Yeah.
hmm
No, for sure.
Um,
I mean, sorry,
yeah,
go
and
ahead.
that did happen. Uh,
Mhm,
and then even the style of the film, it was very much, and this is what I appreciate of it and why the pacing and even the romance didn't
mhm,
bump for me. I think
mhm,
the style of the film just felt like you were dropped into the world like a fly on the wall.
mhm,
And it's because of that where there's none of that big exposition scenes. It's why the dialogue is so sometimes even hard to follow. Because it's the filmmakers are almost assuming that you'll get it because if you were actually in that room, you'd be able to follow. So they're not
yeah.
trying to appeal to you watching it. They're trying to just immerse you
Mhm,
into it. And I even think from the relationship, the reason why it worked for me is because yeah, they don't act like a couple um would act
mhm,
like, but they do feel like a couple that hey, that is in this world, in this
mhm,
profession,
mhm.
would act like, especially when you compare it to others. It's they can't really. There's no normal couple, I guess,
Yeah,
in this world.
yeah.
Um,
Mhm, mhm.
and you see the other couples are a mess. And
Yeah.
they're the ones. That's the closest thing to being a perfect couple. Like you have to find somebody who is also in that same profession. You can't just date like a doctor, you know?
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, speaking of the couples and their like dysfunctional relationships, I think the dinner party scene was one of my favorites, like
Yeah.
in the whole film. It was so well done. I mean, we all know that like dinner scenes are like notoriously hard to film. I think outside of that, they did such a great job in setting just the tone and like the energy of that scene. Like
hmm
the tension was palpable. I really, really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, that I
but,
agree. That's probably my favorite scene
mhm,
in the film. Also,
mhm.
especially like it just starts like a normal dinner party. You're not expecting it to go anywhere, and then you have a moment where one character stabs the other with a fork, or is it a
I
knife? I don't
know
know.
it was a
It
steak
might have been.
knife.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Yeah.
a steak knife. And then
Mhm.
even his reaction is just like he's not
How
screaming or anything.
Yeah. Like this is just a Tuesday morning. And I think my favorite thing is that they followed that up with both of them getting back together, which I
Yep.
thought was hilarious. The humor was very well hidden in this. Like
Yeah.
there were laugh out loud moments that I just did not see coming. It was great. It was a fun movie. It was a fun watch overall, I think. I went to a
hmm
pretty full theater, which is interesting because that hasn't happened in a while. And this movie's been out for quite some time.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I mean, the
yeah.
theater was not full when I went.
Interesting. I feel like word of mouth has done a lot for this film.
Hopefully.
Um, Yeah, because my theater was almost full. And then, fun fact, there was this man that looked exactly like Tom Hanks in the theater. So much so
Oh,
that multiple people walked up to him and asked him if he was Tom Hanks. Uh, I mean, he said no, but we don't know that.
I
Yeah.
wonder if that's why it was full.
Yeah, he seemed to have a nice time, more validation for the movie, I guess.
Yeah. Why don't
Mhm.
we talk about the big reveal at the end, which is actually another dinner party scene. And they reveal that the person who stole the bioweapon
Mhm.
was Colonel James Stokes, the Roger Jean Page character.
Yeah,
Yeah. So what did you think of that moment?
it was a great reveal.
Oh yeah.
But I will say, unfortunately, I kind of saw it coming, and I will tell you that I didn't see it coming because, like, I picked up on some plot point or something like that. It was just a feeling. Um, there
Okay.
were just some shots, like
It
I
was
think
just
they
a
just
shot in the
went
dark.
basically. No, because I think it might have been because they shot him Dutch a lot. Like he was in a lot of like canted frames, right? So I thought I don't know, it was just a feeling. Like that's all I don't know what else to like this is very unhelpful, I realize. But like it just like I like was just like, yeah, I guess it's just him. And then
Hmm.
like eventually it was him and I was like, I wish I could explain this, but I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but the
was
reveal was
also
great.
he was also on my list of suspects. For me, I really had um like three people. I was thinking it could be Kate Blanchett. She could just be evil, and this whole thing it's not a mystery. It's rather going to be a movie about the end of a relationship. Um, it could be him, or
Mhm.
it could have actually been Michael Fassbender himself, and then this whole
Mhm.
thing was well a trick. But then I
Um,
realized it wouldn't be Fassbender when he was freaking out in that meeting when he really
I w
was thinking
Mhm.
that his wife, which I suppose that I mean we mentioned it before getting onto this call, but I guess if you were to choose a low point, it would be that one when
Mhm.
even he believes that his wife is truly
Betraying the country.
yeah. Mhm.
Interesting that you bring that scene up because I wanted to talk about his performance in that scene. It was incredible. Like it was so I mean his body language throughout the film is very muted
Mhm.
and very like held in. And I feel like in that scene he like I could feel his fear. I could feel his
Yep.
frustration. It was
Mhm.
just a really, really cool performance.
I think the performances in this movie were interesting because, I mean, this movie has been said that it just feels very cold and you don't connect
Hmm.
to the characters, but I feel like the characters are so jaded and they've seen
Hmm.
so much that
Hmm.
just nothing bothers
Like
them,
faces
or
them
not that
anymore.
nothing,
Yeah.
yeah, not that nothing bothers them, but they would never react the way we do. And
Hmm.
that in that moment, it was him, getting
Yeah.
close to what someone like us would react
Hmm.
to.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's why it connected so hard for me. Um, I think some of the other relationship stuff too. It's the same thing, the breakup between the therapist and the Duke from Bridgerton.
Yeah.
Uh, like even that, it was
Naomi.
like, yeah. I don't know. I thought that like, okay, like they broke up, but I didn't really feel anything about it. It didn't seem like they felt anything about it. It was
Yeah.
a very, I think cold is a great way to describe just the entire
Hmm.
film. But
Yeah.
it definitely felt justified with it.
Yeah. I think this movie, I feel like this movie just, and that a lot of what I was hearing about this film before watching it was about the sex in it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which then going into it, I expected like a big sex scene. Um,
Right.
there wasn't one. Uh,
Yeah, I was like,
not
what
not that
sex?
I'm disappointed. But the movie uses sex, I
Hmm.
feel.
Hmm.
And that's a common trope in spy movies. For example,
Hmm.
James Bond, he hooks up
Hmm.
with a new girl in every movie. But
Hmm.
that does feel very it does feel very superficial and on the surface, where it is kind of like, oh, he's this cool, suave spy. Um,
Hmm.
and then it's like he goes to these cool locations and then just will
That puts
and
women.
then
Yeah.
finds a pretty girl.
Hmm.
Yeah, hooks up with her. And then this movie does definitely play with sex, but
Hmm.
it's more about how it reminds me almost. It's gonna be a weird comparison. It reminds me almost about Severance in a way, where it is about
Hmm.
trying to separate your profession from your life. In this case, it is relationships.
Hmm.
Um, and how sometimes it's a, or how in this case it's impossible to do that. Like I said earlier, these characters cannot just date people that are also not in this profession. But then it ends up getting super messy. You know, Naomi Harris and Rajon Page being the therapist, and well, technically he's kind of her client.
Mm-hmm.
That's super
Which
messy.
is already so
Um,
messy. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they're also coworkers. Um,
And she's also
Freddie
sleeping with
Sw
that other agent guy.
Yep.
And she's a great
Freddie
therapist.
playing, yeah,
Yeah.
Freddie, played by Tom Burks,
Mm-hmm.
and the Marissa Bella character, like
Mm-hmm.
them having their whole thing, her stabbing
Yeah.
him, and then they're still being together after
Yeah.
that. And,
Yeah, really
um,
fun, realistic stuff, I think.
yeah, and then you have, and that's what made the predicament of Michael Fassbender's George
Mm-hmm.
so big because um he is, again, that's the closest you can have to a normal life. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they have their own home. It's a nice home. Side
Mm-hmm.
note,
It's a
really,
really
really
nice
cool
home.
fridge.
Yeah.
Um,
I
where
noticed it
it looks like a
too.
cabinet. It just looks like a cabinet, but it's an actual fridge. Um,
Yeah.
but as stable of a marriage as he could be, and
Mm-hmm.
so we see why his life is starting to fall apart in that moment.
Mm-hmm. I did want to shout out for I did want to shout out the set design for the home. It was incredibly well done. And I
Mhm.
think in a weird way, like Kate Blanchett almost like flowed into the home.
Yeah,
Her body language is it was great. I thought her performance was incredible.
yeah. Which I
So
really hope
yeah.
she doesn't quit acting, like she said.
Hmm.
She
Hmm.
might.
Hmm. I
She's
mean, I
got a
wouldn't
lot
blame her.
left.
Um, she's got a lot left, yes. She was great. Everything about her performance, like really, like I think she popped in every scene that she was in.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, overall it was a very, very enjoyable film.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So now let's move on to our ratings. And as a reminder, or if you're new, we rate things on the script coverage scale, which is a pass if we think the movie's not all that great, a consider if we think it's pretty decent, and a recommend if we think it's if we think it's a great movie. As a
Mhm.
reminder, this is not a recommendation, it's just how we score things here. So with that said, how would you score Black Bag?
I would give it a pretty strong consider. I'm only not giving it a recommend because the love story didn't work for me. How about you?
Yeah. It'll be a recommend for me. I think
Mm-hmm.
this movie is not at all what I expected, and I'm not gonna lie, it took me a minute to adjust to
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but once I did, I found it very enjoyable, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something unique.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and just coming from another great director with Steven Soderbergh, he's always trying to figure out ways to do something unique, whether it's using an iPhone to shoot
Mm-hmm.
feature-length films.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Which is
I
something
believe
I
he
can
also
really
made
get
an
behind.
mhm. I believe he also made
Sorry.
an interactive series a few
Mm-hmm.
years back. So yeah, I Soderbergh, he's great. Doesn't, of course, he has a ton of movies.
Mm-hmm.
Some are better than the others, and I think this is one of the better ones.
Yeah. It was a pretty fun experience.
Yeah. Also,
Um,
great to see Michael Fassbender being in a good movie. It's been a while.
yes,
He
it's
is
refreshing.
so talented. I think, I don't know, maybe he has just not a very good agent.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I wonder who his agent is.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I thought he was great in this film, especially. It was a very unique
Yeah.
performance for sure.
Hmm.
What would you recommend to someone who likes films like Black Bag?
I'm gonna do it different. I'm gonna do kind of a outside of the box
Mm-hmm.
recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna recommend Crimson Peak. And I
Mm-hmm.
know this is a horror movie by Guillermo del Toro,
Mm-hmm.
starring Tom Hiddleston and Jessica Chastain.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I recommend this movie, because yeah, it's not a spy movie. It doesn't feel like Black Bag at all. But I
Mm-hmm.
think both Black Bag and Crimson Peak are actually romance movies. Like Black Bag for me is a romance movie disguised as a spy thriller. Crimson Peak
Mm-hmm.
is a romance movie disguised as a horror film. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why I'm going to recommend Crimson Peak because I think both of those movies kind of blend genres.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you mean. I think the blend of the genre was very cool. I think it's a especially I think sticking romance within like horror, thriller, or something that's
Yeah.
completely on the other end of the spectrum is an interesting choice all the time. I am going to recommend this Tamil film called Vishwarupam. It's old, it's 2013, and actually a lot of
It's
people
not
didn't
that
like it
old.
when it came out. Over 10 years old. Okay. No, but also the thing is, when this movie came out, a lot of people didn't like it, and like it was like honestly like not very well received at all. But I thought that the spy espionage stuff of it was really well done, and in a very weird sense, in a very twisted way, it feels tonally similar to this one. So yeah,
You know,
that's my
another
recommendation.
another recommendation you could go with, Eat the Tiger.
I did the research and I also came upon Ekta Tiger and I was like, I don't think I want to recommend that. Yeah. There's a wonderful YouTube video of like an actual raw agent reacting to some of the scenes from Ekta Tiger. And it is hilarious. It's the whole time it's the agent just being like, this would never happen. This would never
Yeah.
happen. Who did the research on this film? Yeah, there's a gold mine of content out there. What else have you been watching?
Yeah, so I have been catching up on Invincible season three.
Mhm.
I think I have like two episodes left at the time of this recording,
Okay.
and it's really good so far. Although it is funny how forgettable season two was, because
Mhm.
in the very beginning of season three, they did this, hey, previously on, and they showed you everything that happened from season two.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm watching that recap and I'm like, I don't remember any of this. Did I? And I literally went back. I'm like, did I finish season two? And yeah, I finished it. I just completely forgot about it. But season three
Mhm.
so far is really, really fun. And I've heard that the finale is, um, insane and it has one of the highest, like, rated um, finales of all time. It's up there with like Ozymandias, Breaking Bad. I think Battle
Oh
of the
wow.
Bastards, Game of Thrones.
Oh
That's like
wow.
how
Huh.
high it's up there. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, sounds interesting. I haven't watched the show, so I don't know. But yeah, maybe I'll catch it someday. I have just started the White Lotus, the latest season. I waited for all the episodes to come out before I wanted to start it. Haven't really gotten in, so I'm not going to say much because the internet will not stop talking about the show.
Yeah.
And I'm trying so hard to dodge the spoilers. Uh, yeah, so hopefully I'll finish it soon.
All
It's
right.
good so far. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us in this week's episode of the Pages to Pixels podcast. I'm Kirtana,
I'm Rohan.
and we will see you again next week with a brand new episode. Thank you.
Thank you.